Do you wonder about past lives? Have you ever thought about where your soul has been, where it's going, or what lessons and memories have been gathered along the way? In this podcast, we will discuss past life memories, psychic phenomena, energy healing, and other metaphysical topics with experts and the average person to find out how we can heal through these experiences. So I invite you to join me on my journey. Welcome to the Regression Session. Welcome back to the Regression Session. My name is Ian. Welcome to the Regression Session. To any new listeners, thanks for tuning in. We love you. This week, it's just me. I don't have a guest because I have something super important that I think we need to start a dialogue on, because there's a ton of people out there struggling with it, and I'll explain why I think it's so important later. But before we get into that, I would like to say thank you guys so much for the support. We just passed 10,000 plays. So with that being said, don't forget to subscribe in your podcast player so you don't miss any of my weekly uploads. And if you would, share the podcast around with anybody who you think might be interested, or anybody who you think might be able to benefit from the messages shared on the show. If you would like to come on to the podcast to talk with me about your past life experiences or your views on any metaphysical topic, shoot me an email. My email is theregressionsession@gmail.com, and I promise I will respond to you. So this is just going to be another one of those freeform episodes where I just kind of talk about what I'm thinking about this and some thoughts I have about this concept. The concept that I'm going to be exploring today is recovering from religious doctrinal trauma. So first of all, I'll kind of tackle this, and this is a huge can of worms. It's a society issue that has to be solved on an individual basis. There's no one-size-fits-all fix for this, because there's a lot of different things that go into it. There's different types of religions out there. There's different intensities, and there's people who could experience the same exact event in a religious setting, and it could damage one person and then not damage the other person, because everybody experiences things so wildly differently that it's just kind of really difficult. But in order to prepare for this topic, I've been talking to a lot of people about religious trauma and what they perceived as religious trauma, if they've healed from it. If they haven't healed from it, what do they think they need to heal from it? What is it that they think that they're missing in order to move on with their lives? A lot of people that I talked to were so hurt by the religion that they grew up in that they just weren't even willing to even try to move on yet, because they felt like they were missing something. So that's really what I was getting at. And there might be some people who are religious that are listening to this and are thinking, what are you talking about? What? Religion's a good thing, and it can be a good thing. Don't get me wrong. If you need that structure in your life, the structure that religion can provide, then I'm all for it. This is in no way me saying religion is bad. What I'm saying is in the wrong contexts and in the wrong hands, it can cause damage. And I don't care what religion you are in, you can be damaged and not even know it. And like I was saying earlier, this is a massive can of worms. I might even have to break this topic up into multiple discussions about this. But what I'll do is I'll start by kind of once again touching on my story a little bit. And if you want more context as to why I'm even talking about this, you can go back to my episode 1 and listen to it. It's called Origin. I talk about how I grew up LDS, which is Mormon, for anybody not familiar with the acronym. But I grew up Mormon, and there was definitely a lot of trauma associated with that. And I'm going to talk just a little bit about a few of the things that I've noticed in myself and other people that are that grew up in religion. And this isn't limited to Mormonism, by the way. This is across a lot of different religious people that I talk to. So for me, some of the traumatic things that I experienced, I'll just start with the big one. Let's just see, like sexual repression, I guess would be the best way to put it. So being uncomfortable with the idea of a healthy sexual relationship, not even knowing really what that would look like, not being able to self-express sexually because that's looked down upon, in not just in Mormonism but in a lot of religions. And I've definitely been part of the cynical side of things where it's like that's used to control you. I still kind of believe that if you can control someone's sex life, you can control their entire life. But I'm not here to talk about the control that religion has on people. So that's one thing, is like the sexual repression, and that can be super, super damaging, because it causes all kinds of problems with relationships and romantic and non-romantic later in your life. It's just kind of a difficult situation. And once again, I'm touching on these so we can talk about how we can start the process of healing. If you are in a position where you've experienced trauma from your religion, my goal is to try to assist you in starting the process of healing. So another thing that was common, I've kind of broken it down into 4 or 5 main things that I heard across talking to like 30 or 40 different people about this. There's like 5 main things that people feel that they were having a really hard time recovering from, or that they experienced that they just can't let go. The idea of sexual repression was my personal one, because that's the one that I think I struggled with the most coming out of religion. That's the main one that kind of messed me up earlier on in my life. Luckily, I've been able to move past that, and I hope that anybody listening to this, I hope that this helps you to move past that if you're struggling with that as well. So there's, like I said, maybe 5 main things that people have struggled with that I talked to. And I'll just kind of go down. This is in no order particularly. These are just the things that I heard, and I'm just going to read off the list. Loss of a sense of identity. Social and cultural pressure, a sense of betrayal, and guilt. So I guess those are the 4 main ones that I came across. So I'm going to touch on the first one I brought up, which was the sexual repression. How are we going to deal with this? Where do you even start? If you are unhealthy sexually, that is going to bleed out into a couple different things, right? If you look at the chakra system, this has to deal with your sacral chakra, which is located basically almost in where your genital area is. It's an energetic block. And before we get talking too much into this, I was going to bring up the concept of energy and how it can be used and utilized. So let's just hit the rewind button for a second, since I neglected to talk about it a little bit earlier. Let's talk about how we dedicate energy and how we use energy. We do this unconsciously. We do it consciously, right? in religious contexts, it's done through prayer, but it's also done in all sorts of other ways too. If you think about, I'll just do like a positive and a negative thing. Let's just say, you have a mentor or something that you really look up to, and all you think about them is super positive. You're basically sending energy their way. Most of the time when we talk about energy or talk about ourselves internally, we're sending negative energy towards ourselves. So there's lots of ways that we can utilize and manipulate this energy within us. And if you think I'm kind of crazy for talking about this, let me just bring this up to you. Think about the limited amount of light that your human eyes can actually see versus the amount of light that's actually out there that we even know of. You've got infrared, you've got ultraviolet, right? And you've got, X-rays, you've got radio waves out there that you can't see or hear. You've got microwaves that you can't see or hear. You've got nuclear radiation. Those are all energies as well. Not to mention sound waves. We have such a limited capacity to hear sounds. There's super high-pitched sounds that we can't hear. There's super low-pitched sounds that we can't hear. All of this stuff that we can't even get a grasp of without instruments and tools, it can affect us in various ways. And so energy is all around us, and we just can't really be physically aware of it all the time. And so that brings us to the chakras, and really what I believe the chakras should be used for is kind of bringing an awareness to that energy. If you can be aware of the energies, regardless of whether or not you buy into the whole chakra system, the 7 chakra system, it can be a useful tool for you to be aware of the way that you're dedicating your energies. So going back to the question of having a distorted sexual identity, that can be observed or consciously thought of in your sacral chakra, which is right, like I said, kind of in your genital area. And that is that energy, the energy of sexuality, creativity. It's your energy to express yourself in a healthy way. Okay, so when that gets damaged, regardless of whether or not it's a chakra damage, I don't really care about that. That's just a tool for me. When that energy or that perception gets damaged, it's gonna bleed out into all sorts of different creativity problems, self-expression problems. It's gonna make it difficult to express yourself and express your emotions, express how you're feeling, express yourself physically, all sorts of stuff. It's, if you really think about it, your sexuality is a super important part of you, and it's not. This isn't meant to be like a dissertation about sexuality or anything, but it is a very important part. So really, what I would recommend for anybody struggling with this, because this is what I struggled with, not the only thing, but a huge part of what I was struggling with when I was first coming out of religion and realizing, hey, this kind of damaged me, is not necessarily like going from one extreme to the other. So being completely celibate to being a complete freak and just getting with anybody and everybody. Really what I think helped me the most to heal from this is to understand that it's okay to express yourself. There's no right or wrong way to express yourself. It sounds kind of weird, but we kind of put ourselves in these little boxes, right? Especially when you've experienced this kind of trauma, you're separating yourselves into these boxes. Like you take this, and then inside the box, you take this expressive part of yourself and you stick it in a box inside the box, and you're afraid to take it out. But what I'm saying is it's okay to take it out as long as you're respectful of other people. And that can go through any kind of self-expression, as long as the only wrong way to express yourself is in a way that hurts other people. But other than that, it's pretty much free game. And starting to feel comfortable with expressing yourself is the first step, in my opinion, to healing this kind of trauma. Becoming comfortable with expressing your own creativity in any way that you want. And that can be as simple as, for any artists out there, just drawing something from the heart, or writing a poem, or going outside and making a garden. Expressing yourself in a way that makes you feel comfortable and unique, because that's what this energy is. It's your creativity, it's your passion for anything, and that doesn't even necessarily have to be a sexual passion either. It can be a passion for reading, it can be a passion for anything. Just start off small if you're uncomfortable, and work your way to greater and greater self-expression. And if any of these topics, if anybody wants me to go do more of a deep dive on these, let me know, and I'm happy to talk to about it. I'm happy to talk to you about it. This show is to help people heal through these kinds of things. So that was my kind of a thing that I struggled with. Now let's move into the next one that I read, the sense of identity. Losing or never even feeling like you had a sense of identity in the first place. I'm part of a collective. I'm part of the truth. We know the truth. If that sounds familiar to you and you feel like that was your whole identity for a long time, you're not alone. There's a ton of people out there that feel when they were in religion that they didn't have a sense of identity, or a sense of self, or a sense of being unique. A lot of religions out there actually replace your first name with brother or sister. And regardless of whether or not it was done on purpose, it takes away from your own individual uniqueness. That's a whole conversation for another time, whether or not it's done on purpose. But either way, it's damaging, because your identity is, again, this kind of ties back into what I was just talking about, and the treatment is pretty much the same as well. Starting off by looking inside yourself and asking yourself, like, what is it that makes me me? And that's it's super simple to say, like, oh, just have a conversation with yourself or whatever. But it's definitely not easy. Like, if I was to ask myself what makes me me, that's a huge can of worms to open, and that's okay. It might be scary to even look at, especially if it's not something that you've touched even once in your entire life. It's okay to open that can of worms and kind of dive into it. What makes you unique? What makes you special? What makes you different from your brother or your sister or your mom or your dad or your best friend or whatever? I know that even if you think that you're not unique, there's at least one thing, probably a ton more, that you can look at and say, look, this is me. I do this. This is a characteristic that I have that is unique to me. One thing that can also kind of help with this, an exercise that you can do, is just ask yourself, what are 3 things about myself that I love? Because we're so used to giving out compliments to other people that we neglect ourselves. So ask yourself, what are 3 things, and you can do 5 things, you can do 1 thing. It doesn't matter how many things. What's something about me that I love. And that can help you to begin your journey on discovering your own identity. You don't have to give your power or your identity to an organization or a religion. You truly don't. It comes back to this energy thing where if you feel like you don't have a sense of identity, what's stopping you from finding it? Nothing. Nothing is stopping you from finding it except yourself. The more energy you give to that organization, the more you're giving away your power. The more energy you give away by saying, this left me without my own unique identity, the longer you're not going to have a unique identity. So take baby steps. Find out who you really are. And I promise you, you'll find yourself. So now the next thing. A distortion of culture and social pressures. Man, these long talks leave you thirsty. So this is these are just such complicated issues that it's hard to dive into. But it's important, and I'm just kind of fumbling my way around through this because I don't have a script. This is just my thoughts kind of coming out as they come out. But the social pressures thing, I mean, it's a real thing. It really is. It's like when your grandma's talking to you about like, oh, are you going to church and being a good boy? Are you repenting and being a God-fearing man or woman? Like, who wants to say, no, Grandma, I'm not. I just went to a kegger last night. Like, there's not really a comfortable way to be like, no, I'm not religious. I don't go to church. I don't even know if I believe in God. Or like, no, I went to a different church because I'm not comfortable with the one that I went to with you as a kid or whatever. Obviously, that's just one example. But there's tons of things that I know that you could probably think of with this cultural and social pressure kind of a thing where you're just like, man, everybody's doing this. If I don't do it, I'm going to be the odd man out. And it's a really difficult thing to deal with. But once again, coming back to your own energy and directing that is, you don't have to give your power away to these people, right? You don't have to give your power away to your grandma or your mom or your aunt or whatever. You don't have to do it. Like it's super uncomfortable at first. Well, I'll just give you an example. In Mormonism, if you wanted to do like a baby blessing, which is where you just give a baby a blessing for its life ahead. I'm sure it's probably self-explanatory, but for anybody who didn't know, you just kind of stand over a baby or sit over a baby or whatever and just kind of say a prayer over it. I wanted to do that for my firstborn son. And I called my mom and I was like, Mom, I would like to do a baby blessing for my kid. And my idea was this. I was going to invite over my parents, my wife's parents, my wife's grandparents, my grandma, anybody who wanted to come, and I was going to have me and both grandfathers do their own blessing or their own prayer over my baby. I thought it was a very beautiful idea. I thought it was very inclusive and gave the best chance for my kid to succeed. Because then he could have a little bit of everybody giving him prayers. So I called my dad and he was like, I wouldn't be very comfortable doing that. And I said, okay. All right. And I called my mom and I told her I want to do a baby blessing. And she said, okay, well, you've got to call your local church leader. and get him over there because he has to be there for that. And that was kind of confusing to me. And I was like, well, why? Well, because he has to be there to bless your baby. And I just kind of was shocked because I hadn't told her that I wasn't Mormon anymore. And so just out of my mouth comes, Mom, I'm not Mormon. And the shock in her voice was like palpable over the phone. It led to this super uncomfortable, super long conversation about Mormonism and why I can't leave the covenant path and all that stuff. And the conversation had me leaning towards like faking being Mormon just so that I could fit in with my family. It was super, super uncomfortable. Really, it was. And I totally understand why people wouldn't want to like conform. But really, you don't have to do it. And I know that me saying that isn't going to fix the problem. But eventually, if your friends and your family are disappointed and disown you or whatever, it will hurt for a while. But in reality, your life is about you, not them. Right? It's your responsibility is to make sure that you live your best life, not live the best life that your grandma wants you to live or your mom wants you to live. It's not their responsibility to make sure that you as an adult do exactly what they want. It's their responsibility to raise you up to make your own choices. And if they like, let's just run through this scenario. You tell your mom, hey, I'm not doing this anymore. I really don't want to deal with this anymore. I don't believe in it. Or I want to go to a different church, or whatever the situation may be. They say, okay, well then you're not my daughter anymore. You're not my son anymore. And I can definitely see why that would cause some issues, especially if you're still living at home. So just definitely be careful when you're doing this, if you decide that this is something that you want to do. But after it all blows over, if they don't accept you back or into their life, or if they don't ask you to be a part of their life after that, are they really even worth it in the first place? And yeah, family is family, and you should definitely be loyal to a point. But when it comes down to your happiness, you shouldn't really make exceptions. Your life should be about your pursuit of happiness. And it doesn't matter if your decisions make someone else sad or unhappy. The only thing that I am against is hurting people. That's the only, if you want to call it, commandment that I would stand by, is do no harm. What's it gonna hurt by saying I'm done with this? Really? Besides feelings. This is tradition. That doesn't matter if it's not making you happy. So to kind of wrap this up, be true to yourself. And if you don't want to do it, don't do it. You're a grown-ass man. So the next thing I'm going to talk about that was also kind of a common thread was the feeling of betrayal. Now this one's hard too. And it's a huge can of worms, and I don't even know where to start because I felt this one too. It's different for everybody. For me, it was the truth claims of Mormonism, but you can even, let's just go big picture, because not everybody that listens to this was ex-Mormon or whatever. Let's look at this from the perspective of of God. Let's just look at the standard depiction of God is a man who demands obedience, but is touted about as being a loving God. So you have to be God-fearing, right? Or because you have this super small sliver of life between 0 and 100 years, give or take, to please this God, or you literally burn for eternity in fire. That's the traditional version of God. It might be a little harsh, but that's really what I see as the traditional version of God, is a man in the sky who decides whether you get to be happy forever or be lit on fire for eternity. So growing up with that depiction of a God, and then seeing, like, you know, being told God loves you, God loves you, God loves you, and you have to confess your sins to God, right? So you're beholden to this God. You're responsible to cleanse your sins to this God and be completely obedient. But I know that people who are faithful and believe in God have asked themselves this question: why, if God loves us, why is there so much war and pain, right? Why is it that there's a super rich person on one side of the world that has such an easy life and just skates through life, and there's another person on the other side of the world that's starving to death? There's so much inequality and injustice in the world that the test is rigged. It really is, because one person, you know, it's not a fair test. Everybody's given the same test, but is equipped with different things. And this can start to cause some cognitive dissonance in your head, where you have these different ideas that are clashing, and it, you know, finding out that no, if this is true, then we don't have a just God, can lead to this sense of betrayal. And that's just one example. You can look at any kind of an example where you feel betrayed by your religion or by your institution, and it applies the same way. One common thing when I ask people about this, so like what is it that you would need in order to feel like this was resolved? And the number one answer kind of surprised me. And the answer was, I want an apology. I want an apology for being misled. I want an apology for being a member of the LGBT community and being discriminated against. I want an apology for me being addicted to drugs and then being told that I was going to go to hell by my pastor. I want an apology for agreeing with a radical idea that doesn't fit into the social structure of my religion, and then being publicly talked down to. It doesn't matter. A lot of people, they've told me, I want an apology. The truth is, you will never get that apology. It's not gonna come. If you are dedicating your energy to wanting an apology from your institution, the best suggestion that I can give to you is to take that energy and redirect it into something productive. And that sounds simple, but it's not easy. What am I gonna do? What can this hurt, betrayed energy accomplish? It's not very productive. And yeah, that's true. It's not productive. But it's just energy. The same kind of energy that you use to get up every morning and make yourself breakfast and go to work and all that stuff. It's the same type of energy. It's just being used in a different way. There's a super simple technique that you can use for things like this called parts negotiation. This can be used for all kinds of things. If you're feeling, and this doesn't even have to be for religion. This can be for anything, really. But let's just take a look at this betrayal. You sit down with yourself for a minute and you kind of call upon that part of you that feels betrayed, and you say, you know, what is something that you, as the part of me that feels betrayed, can dedicate this energy to that's productive? And it doesn't even, you don't even have to consciously come up with something. You just give it some time. Just give that part of yourself a little bit of time to come up with something, and you'll know. You'll know when it's gone, and then just let it go. It's not easy, but it's simple. Just let it go. And this isn't to say that your feelings of betrayal are going to go away. What the goal is to just remove the energy from it. Because when you're putting so much energy into something, what you're doing is you're calling whatever energy that you're putting out there back to yourself. So if it's negative thoughts and energy, it's just going to keep on circulating, especially if it's just going around and around and around in your head, right? And I don't even necessarily know, I'm not an expert in all this stuff. I don't have a master's degree in therapy and all that stuff, right? I'm just some dude who has a podcast about this stuff. But the conversation needs to be had about all this because it's a super big part of society. We're carrying around all of this guilt and betrayal, and you know, we're feeling pressured by our peers and by our families. We don't have a sense of identity, and it's time to come out of that. It's time to begin healing from this kind of trauma. And like I've said since the beginning of this episode, it's not necessarily just an individual problem, but that's where it has to start. It has to start with you and me and Uncle Joe down the street talking about it. It has to start with someone. And it's a super uncomfortable subject to talk about. But a lot of people have experienced it. And it's huge. I mean, religions are some of the most powerful organizations in the world. They have a lot of power over people. They can influence politics. They can influence laws. They can influence the way people eat. They influence a ton of stuff. And all that stuff builds up. And once we can release this and take all this energy that's being dedicated to these organizations and take it and dedicate it towards yourself, I think that's where the real change is going to start to come in. I think that is where we are going to find our real power. And there's one more thing really that was very common among the people that I talked to about this. The last big thing, again, these are in no particular order, but the last thing that I brought up, that I'm going to bring up, is a sense of guilt. And this is probably the biggest one that anybody who's gone to a religion has dealt with, is just this sense of guilt. You're taught that, let's just use a quote, the natural man is an enemy to God. So inherently, you as a human being are flawed. My question to you is why? Why should you have to feel guilty? Even if you struggle with this, like one thing that Mormonism instilled in me was the guilt of drinking alcohol. So for years, whenever I would even just like buy a beer or something, I would feel this crazy guilt, like, oh my God, I'm such a bad person because I'm buying beer. But really, like, like, what? What's the point? Going back to this power thing and this energy thing, the only person that can give away your power is you, right? So if you're struggling with any kind of guilt, it can be the guilt of feeling like a sinner. It can be the guilt of buying a beer. It could be a guilt of like you had sex before marriage. Oh no. It's okay. The cure for guilt is forgiveness. Because the truth is, the only person in this life that you have to be beholden to, the only authority that you have to be completely responsible to is yourself. You're the one who has your own power. You're the only one who can take it away. Of course, your freedom can be affected. Your choices can be affected. There's outside influences, but even with outside influences, you don't have to give away your power. Your power comes within yourself. And so the cure for guilt is forgiveness. Forgiving yourself. And that's, again, these are all simple, but they're simple but not easy. If you truly feel guilty and that you deserve to feel guilty, this is going to take some serious internal work. For all this stuff, really, the only thing you can really do is sit down with yourself and just let all of the feelings that you're feeling come through. As a society, we are trained to stuff these emotions down because what are they? They're useless. They get in the way. If you wake up and you felt so terrible that you're crying on the way to work, you better stuff that down before you get to work because we don't want the customers to see that. You've got bills to pay. You don't got time to feel like shit. You don't have time to deal with these emotions. You don't have time to grieve for your family member who just passed away. You have to go to work. You have to take care of the kids. You've got to clean the kitchen. You've blah 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 blah. Right? All of these things are kind of shoved down your throat from day one. The best way to deal with these kinds of emotions is to give yourself a little bit of time. And it doesn't have to be hours and hours a day. That's a huge misconception about this kind of work. It can be 10 minutes. Right? It can be 5 minutes. Whenever you have time. It could be in your car on the way home from work. It could be on the train. It doesn't really matter where it is. Just wherever you can be comfortable, and you just let those emotions come through. You feel them. You let them hit you like a freight train because there's nothing wrong with any of these emotions inherently. There's not a negative emotion. All of these emotions have a purpose. And by stuffing them down, you're creating pressure. We need to release the pressure by letting all the emotions come through. Just work through them one at a time. The only way to work through them is to feel them and move on to the next best thing. Now that I felt this sense of guilt, what's the next best thing I can feel? Forgiveness? Okay, great. Shame? Okay. Even if it's shame, like, okay, I felt guilt. Now I can feel shame. Okay, now we move through shame. Now that I've felt shame, what's the next best thing that I can feel? Right? So you just move up this ladder. Even if it starts off with super shitty emotions at first. Just move up until you can start to feel better. It's the best way to do it. Trust me. I've done it. I've done it for a long time now, and you can go to therapy and that's great, but this is a super effective way to just start to be more in touch with yourself, and that's the message that I want to leave to anybody who's struggling with any of these problems or any other problems, is to allow yourself the time to feel through whatever it is you're struggling with, especially for religious trauma. Allow yourself to feel the anger, right? The betrayal, the guilt, all that stuff. Just let it come through. Once it comes through, move on to the next best thing, even if it's still shitty. Move on to the next best thing and feel it. Don't try to stop it. Don't put up your walls. Let it hit you like a freight train and just experience it until you feel like you've experienced all of it. And it's going to be okay. It'll be all right. I promise. Thanks for sitting with me during this super unorganized rant about healing through religious trauma. Even if I didn't do a super elegant job talking about it, I think it's still important to begin the conversation. So if you know someone who is struggling with this, who either are aware of it or maybe not even aware of it yet, you can talk to them about it and just open up the conversation of like, look, man, I think you're struggling with this, and you can send them this episode if you want to. If you want to talk to me or have me talk about a topic on the show, feel free to shoot it over to me. I'd be happy to dedicate an episode to it. If you want to come on the show personally to talk to me about your views, your past life experiences, or your knowledge on any metaphysical topics, shoot me an email. My email is theregressionsession@gmail.com, and I would love to have you on the show.